Welcome to Speak Augusta podcast. This is your host, Ben Hassan. This is our very first podcast. We're also the owner and the publisher of the Speak Augusta online free newspaper. We have a very interesting and exciting guest today, Mr. Bobby Boucher, the artist. And what we also, he's a great guy. Just met him a few weeks ago. But most notably, he's known as the podcast host of More Than the Masters. Mr. Bobby, the artist Boucher, welcome to the program.
Thank you. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. First and foremost, I want to welcome you to the program. However, also, I want to thank you very much for you interviewed me a few weeks ago. And I can tell you in many ways it put me back on the map.
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
I've been out of circulation for about 100 months being a commissioner. And you gave an opportunity to tell my story in more detail than I've ever told it before. And on my end, it was received very well. I don't know how it was received on your end.
Very well.
But I was very, very pleased with it and pleased with the response I got. So I appreciate the opportunity you allow me to tell my story.
No, I appreciate you coming through and being that open. It's one thing to ask the question, but for somebody to really be open and be open to answering certain things and doubling back, going here and the way you answer certain questions, it was good. It was phenomenal. People told me they learned a lot about you they didn't know. So that meant a lot to me because you've been doing this for a good minute, So for me to do what I'm doing and to be able to have people that have known you for years, decades, some of them say, and they say they didn't know some of this stuff. I was like, okay, well, I'm doing my part,
Well, nobody had done their body of work the way that you've done it for whatever reason. You have the way as being the title that you, a self-title, self-proclaimed, saying that you're an artist, and obviously you have allowed me to take and put my story on your canvas. And
right.
I appreciate that once again. Talk to us a little about exactly how did you come to the name Bobby Boucher or Bobby the Artist? Because later on, it's just recently you interjected artist in there as well.
Yeah, that's funny you say that. So it's Bobby Boucher, and it's from The Water Boy, the movie, mm-hmm. Adam Sandler. I watched it with my daughter, my oldest daughter at the time. Well, my oldest daughter, but I only had one at the time. But I watched with her, and she was like, Daddy, he talk like you. Sometimes I talk, and I jump my words a lot, and you don't know what I'm saying. And so I thought it was funny because she said it. She wasn't joking. She just, kids just naturally say things. Right. And at the time, I would change my name on Facebook like every other 3 months or something like that. Just something funny. And that one just stuck, and I never changed it again. I had a few of them, but that's the one that stuck. So
Bobby Boucher.
Bobby Boucher.
So I won't say Boucher anymore. Hey, Bobby Boucher.
Brochure, whatever.
Talk about the artist part of that.
The artist part come in because, after a while, you do these podcasts, you do interviews, and you tell stories through people's stories, and you paint pictures through people's stories where they answer questions, the way you navigate the interview. And I feel like when you look at my body of work, even up until now, I'm not stopping, but up until now, look at my body of work from the very, very beginning to now, I've always just tried to paint pictures. I've always tried to paint pictures with people's words, their responses, whether they give me long responses, short responses, the great responses, not so great responses. I feel like I should be in that category with artists as well. It's no different than somebody making you feel a certain way with music, making you feel a certain way with a painting, making you feel a certain way with poetry. That's all art, rap, R&B, playing the piano, jazz, all that is art. But I feel like you get a lot of that when you listen to my podcast. Whether I have a Karen Gordon who does all those things I just named, but right. She's talking and we're navigating her life and how she got to be known as that. When I have Ben Hassan on, he's talking about, his upbringing, whether it was with your mom. I thought that part was really important to me because I started thinking of my grandmother, like, my grandma did the same thing. Now it makes sense to why she did it because that was like the thing to do back then if you wanted to take care of certain things. But your story is his story because things you're saying are things people have been through or have gone through and probably didn't question at all. Mm-hmm. But now we understand a more detailed version of it. Like, yeah, she was away, but we heard from him here. But she sent this, but she did that. Those are parts that you don't get. So that artist part comes from the detail. A lot of detail in art. When you painting, it's not that it's red, it's that it's a certain style of red. It's not that you paint it and look nice. It's the brush you use and how you curve that. And I think when you think about how I draw back to certain questions and I try to make people give me certain details of, well, explain this to me and then we kind of dog walk the story of their life, and it makes sense. Like it paints a beautiful picture of Augusta as well, because these are Augusta citizens or people who have been linked to Augusta some way, form, or fashion, myself included.
So what about the title, More Than the Masters? Number two, so two questions here. Number one, what were your thoughts in starting a podcast, or did you call it a podcast when you started? And also, and how did you come to the title More Than the Masters?
Yeah, podcast. Like I said, I called it a podcast. From the jump, and I always say that not to like throw it on anybody else, but a lot of people say I've been podcasting, but it was radio. It was a radio show, or it was a Facebook Live show, or it wasn't a podcast. Podcast was just an audio file at that time. So that's what I would do, audio files. You wouldn't see the person. I mean, I might take a picture of them at some point when you grow and you start to say, well, instead of having a logo on every episode, let's have a picture of the person so they can link their voice to a person. That's how long I've been doing it podcast-wise. You're doing video now, so of course you don't need it now. But At the time, you didn't know who was talking, what they had on, their personality, if they're saying a joke or not, because you just hear audio. And that's what it was. But I started that because I would listen to a guy named Tag Stone and the Joe Budden podcast, and those was kind of urban podcasts that I liked. But I felt like they weren't doing anything that I couldn't do or that I didn't do at the time. I would talk to people where I worked at and get full life story from them just in 5-7 minutes of conversation. But I could never make people relive that conversation. I might say, I just talked to Susie and she told me she was a model in the 70s and she stopped because her husband beat her up and this, that, and third. I would just talk for 10 minutes. But I can never put you in that position I was in to hear that greatness of an episode or a greatness of a conversation, because I couldn't explain it to a person, like why it was important, why I felt the way I felt doing it. So podcast was like a good way to bring people to feel like they're part of the conversation I'm having with somebody.
So what about the title More Than the Masters? How did you come to that conclusion?
More Than the Masters. Trying to make a title. I was trying to put New York with Augusta and try to make it some blend, since even though I'm from New York, I just feel like Augusta's a part of me, and I always felt that way. I never shied away from it, and I wanted to have that perfect blend of my up north upbringing, but my new reformed and gained Southern hospitality, if you will. And I was thinking, like, what way can I link the two, or bring it as a conduit with the title. And More Than Master just seemed like the perfect conduit, because you got More Than the Master. So I call it More Than the Master because so much stuff going on in Augusta. Outside of that 1 week, we got 51 more weeks in Augusta that we all live in, right? But also I know the world know Augusta for the Masters. So that was my way of linking the two, like More Than the Masters. Every time I talk to somebody from New York, what's down there? James Brown. Okay, well, cool. What else? Well, it's the biggest golf tournament. Okay, cool. What else? So now my podcast is that what else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so talk to us about also, when you said More Than the Masters, to take up on that, you just mentioned James Brown, because early on in radio, I used to pretty much do the same thing. I didn't label it like that, but I put those analogies of the Masters, James Brown, and we here as citizens. Mm-hmm. So in taking on More Than the Masters, you're also implying that you believe in Augusta. Definitely. And we find so many of us, as we look across the spectrum on the other social media platforms, local citizens seem not to have that level of appreciation for Augusta. What is about Augusta that you appreciate the most, and you wish that more people who live here would pretty much look at Augusta from a different perspective? Not that you don't hold Augusta accountable. When we say Augusta, we're talking about the citizens, right? Whether it's our elected officials, whether it's common citizens, or what have you. So my question is, once again, what makes you believe Augusta has more to offer than what is being talked about?
What I see, like I said, I'm from a place where it's people love to go there. Like it's like a dream town. But I feel like me being from that place and also coming down here, I feel like this is a dream town as well. You can make it out of here. I see it all the time. You put the work in, the connections. We got people, like some of the people in Augusta, not just sports driven or arts driven, that they are very, very, very successful, just maybe in the background. But when you know those things and you're able to have that knowledge, you feel differently about the city you're from or city you're living in. I think a lot of times people from Augusta look at it like, well, this basketball player didn't make it. This artist can sing, but she's not a platinum artist, whatever. It's so much bigger and deeper things in Augusta that you can attribute success to, or that you can attribute history to. And I think the history of Augusta is what I like the most. And I mean history, not just like James Brown, not just politics driven, but people that matter in the world. I just had on Janice and from
That's Janice Ellis Jackson, the
yes,
administrator?
yes,
Okay.
and
Former administrator.
she spoke about growing up and looking up to people like Essie McTire and Carrie J. Mays and I was like, to me that's a recreation.
Right.
That's just a street. I didn't look at them as like, these big figures, but they are. And then women, this is Augusta, it's history, going back to the podcast thing, like when you have somebody on, but just knowing that she was able to come up with those as influences in your own backyard. It's Augusta. People say there's nothing to do here. It's all this. These are staples in history, Black history. Augusta is to me is just it's a landmark. It's a landmark, and I think when you from or you're around any entity, any place that's a landmark, you appreciate it. And I think I'm able to appreciate that because I'm taking a step back. I wasn't born here, no, but sometimes I wish I was. Like I love the city. Like I love it. I uplift it. I believe in it. And me being from a bigger city and just a city that everybody wants to gravitate to, I look at this as the same thing. I don't see no different. Besides, of course, the speed and stuff. I don't see no different than Brooklyn and Augusta.
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
That's my mother was stayed in Brooklyn.
Yeah, see,
I can remember as a child, I can remember her. We writing a letter. We was writing Prospect Place, is where she stayed at. But later on in life, for sure, she stayed on Hancock Street in Brooklyn as well.
Seriously?
Yes.
No, get out of here.
Yes.
That's crazy. Cause I lived on Bushwick Ave between Jefferson and Cornelia.
Right.
And you got Cornelia, you got Jefferson, and Hancock.
Right.
Hancock is the next street over. Like I promise to you, that's crazy. Yeah, Hancock. That's crazy. That's crazy you said that. I wonder where she lived, Hancock and what, but yeah, that's crazy.
I can't remember the address, but some reason or another, when I said that, the 300-some block came out. But I know at that point because I did not visit her when she stayed on Prospect Place, because that was early on.
Yeah.
And I was in school and everything. But as I got out, I think at the age of 18, but the first time I really went to stay with her, I stayed about 3 months. And I came back, and she stayed on Hancock, and stuff like that.
Yeah, that street can go far.
Yeah,
it can go out of Bushwick. But the thing
can.
I'm saying is it's funny, because I asked you about, when you said your mother, the first time you mentioned her to me and you mentioned what was going on, I instantly thought my grandmother, who also went to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
From Augusta. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
they knew each other. They could know each other for all I know.
Right.
My grandma passed, I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
my mother passed
in
know,
2000. My mother passed in 2008.
that really upsets me. Now I want to know. I
16,
I
sorry.
really, really, really want to know now.
Yeah. Okay. Listen, but so back to you in terms of, so how many years have you been doing your podcast?
Since 2016.
2016.
Yeah, 2016 I started.
And what has you learned the most, and what influence do you think you've had? So there's two questions. What have you think that you've learned the most, and what influence do you think you've had?
Man, I learned so many things to people. Like each episode, you learn each episode. But one thing I learned the most, I learned about Augusta. I learned Augusta is truly more than a Masters. Like it's more to Augusta than just a golf tournament, or than just the people, their history, their story. Like some people's stories intertwine. I had a guy on one time. I did it on like a whim. Just did a podcast with him just to do it. And he ended up talking about Dr. Frazier one time. Like he was like how Dr. Frazier made him pull his pants up, and it was in the Journal Report or Chronicle or something like that. And I ended up pulling it up, and through that, like I got to talk to Dr. Frazier. Like so, I learned that connections in politics is more than just your elected officials. Politics is like relationships. It's talking outside of, or me meeting you and then meeting that person. That's politics. Or me getting a good name because I had Ben Hassan on. Like, I should go on his podcast because Ben Hassan was on there. I learned like 30 things about him. So that's politics. Now I might be read as more because I got somebody you. Learned that a lot through people like telling people's story through these microphones. It really lift people's spirit up. Like it lift it up, spirit up, make them feel like you. I don't know if you, like you said something when you first started. You was like it got you back in the mix, but some people never been in the mix at all. Mm-hmm. That's their first time being in the mix. So they come on and people tagging them and calling them and saying, I ain't know you been through this. I ain't know this. I ain't know that. I learned that, a lot of people got a lot of stories. And if you just ask questions, their stories are really interesting, even if they're not the most popular person or the most successful person,
And from your life experience, because you work in a commercial space, I would say, and so you interact with a lot of people, not necessarily connected to what you do from your podcast, but what's your line of work, your livelihood. And in doing those things and incorporate this question in terms of your podcast as well, what do you think we here as Augustans need to do more of? Now, when saying that, I don't like just a rah, rah, rah and not hold people accountable. That's not what I'm asking. What do you think that we can do more of and put ourselves more on the map, or more people, like you said, that you run into who are more successful, or more people successful than we actually know? And at this particular time, I'm talking about black folks in particular, because anytime we talk about what the man have, we never talk about what we have. So what do you think is a remedy for that, or is there a remedy, or have you went down that road yet?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I might not have the best answer, but taking pride where you from, you know. And when I say taking pride, I mean like boast about it, you know. One thing my people say down here is, you could tell somebody from New York, you're gonna know. They're gonna let you know every chance they get, right?
Absolutely, they are.
No matter how, right? I'm not even that crazy about it. I actually drew back because when I kept hearing that, I said, I'm gonna be different, you know. But yeah, and I feel like we should do the same. Like, people should know when you're from Augusta. I'm from Augusta, you know. Like, you should know that. And then when I say take pride in, it's even if you're here. If you don't leave, take pride in being here. Don't disrespect the city. Don't talk down on it. Be a solution to whatever you see a problem in the city. Don't be a person that tag along to the problem. And then also, like, we gotta have events, do things, but the social media driven, supporting people that are doing big things and making them feel like home is where the heart is, you know. Because some people, you know, they do big things here, and the minute they fail, that's when we talk about them, when they fail. But when they going up, we whatever. Or vice versa. When
is
they
that
go
jealousy?
Up, I think it's it's being human. Honestly, it's a human trait. People do that. It's a human trait.
But that doesn't rule out not being jealous. Though,
It don't.
Because jealousy is a human trait.
It could be jealousy. It could also be you could be programmed to do that. Like, it could be programmed. You cannot know a person. I do name drop. I'll name drop. Let's say Jip. Jip is a boxer from here, right? And you would probably rarely see people talking about his wins, even though he got way more wins than losses. But the minute he lost, you can get him to start talking.
The minute he get knocked out, boy, that's all you're going to hear.
And people joking and laughing. It's like, well, why do we boost it up? Why would he boost him when he won the first 21 fights or first 20-something fights, you know? But when he lost that one, we start talking about him now. We should have been talking about him before that. We should have been uplifting him before that, and not just ridiculing. Because now somebody like that feel like home ain't home, or they feel differently about home.
Let's try something else in there. Because I'm gonna stick in the same thing about jealousy, envy, spitefulness. Step away from all the podcasts that you've had, and at the same time you can connect it. But I want you to start before you started your podcasting. Do you see that kind of spirit that we are very reluctant, as you just let it be known, to elevate one another? And you say as a part of programming, is there some kind of way, like you said, taking more pride in your city, that we need to be encouraged more about that? We have, I don't know, you know more than I do, we have almost probably a dozen persons in the city with podcasts now.
Yeah.
And do we who have it seem to understand, even though we can have different intentions, different goals and objectives, but I think all of the ultimates to make Augusta a better place to live, you know, to extend a better quality of life, and that starts with a mental perspective. So how do we get our citizens to say, hey, we are probably our own worst enemy? And how do we drive that home because of what we are always saying, like I say, life and death is in the power of the tongue? How do we get us to really appreciate where we are?
I mean, for starters, like stuff like this, you know, podcasts, us uplifting, but like mind you, I said programming, so that means people are seeing that somewhere else. You don't need to program automatically with jealousy and hate, right? So it got to start with that being a norm for people, and it's not a norm for some reason. It's not a norm for people to uplift. It's not. It's people that do that. We stand out. Like if you always uplifting somebody, you stand out. Matter of fact, uplifting somebody, people be jealous because you uplift somebody. Right. Oh, he always positive. Like they get mad because of that. So it's I don't know if it's something that you can really necessarily fix, but to talk about it, making that conversation, creating awareness about it, you know, and then showing the positivity, the positives of doing that. Positive doing so, like positive of me uplifting you, you uplifting me. Show what that could look like. The positives of just rooting for somebody just because they're doing something good in life. Showing what that look like. But also showing how you can diminish somebody by not doing that as well. And maybe seeing that may change things, but like, you know, people are really programmed to be jealous to and I think it's because too, like, think about life chances.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people be not, I say jealous. They'll be jealous, or they'll not like what you're doing, or they won't be as happy for you because they feel like, I could be doing that. You know, like, I had the same chance he had. I could be doing that. I could have bought a microphone. I could be doing that. I could have started this paper. I could be doing that. I could have boxed. I could be doing that. But they not. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes we have a self issue. The issue is in ourselves. So we project a lot too. So it's like multiple problems, not even just jealousy. It could just be projection. You could be projecting hatred, or just talking down based on your situation not being right. You might not want to be a boxer. Mm-hmm. You might not want to be a basketball player. You might not want to be a podcaster, but you won't uplift that because you're in a position right now where you're not happy in life with yourself. So it's hard for a person like that to clap for somebody else.
Well, I've seen a excellent term, because as I begin to look at you, because like you say, people meet by knowing other people. It's just that I happen to be trying to figure out how I'm going to start my podcast, what I want to get involved with this. Yeah. Knew I wanted to do it, didn't know where to start. I'm still learning. I appreciate you today helping me navigate this conversation and setting up today. And I happen to see you interviewing my son-in-law, Kobe. And at that time, I think he goes by the handle Cousin Kobe.
Yeah, and, shout out to Kobe.
And so at that particular point, I called him, and he was very familiar with you, and you jumped right on it, mm-hmm. and I really appreciate that. But why can't we do more of that? And how do we bench? Because basically, I'm asking the same question repetitiously. They're asking the same way. And that's, how do we get a breakthrough? How do you think that of us who have these mics and can speak to it and say, it's okay? Because right now, we find convenience. We find that it's okay to tear each other down, but it's problematic to give persons their flowers while they live. Yeah. So how do we? What do we need to do? Even because many of us are religious people in our regard. We go to our houses of worship. We profess to love the Lord, but still we can't wrap our mind around something as simple as life and death is in the power of the tongue. And if I'm not going to be able to have a certain quality of life if I don't elevate someone else. Right. Because whatever I breathe on them, I'm breathing on myself as well. Do we understand that? I know I said a lot.
No, I know, but it's cool. It's we do this. What I say is, like I said earlier, it's about creating awareness, right? So it would be our job to continuously say it, even if they get tired of hearing it. Kobe called me. We called each other. We met up, had a good episode, and we started linking up. Helped you do the podcast, then you start doing that. Like, that has to be known. We have to keep bringing awareness to that, because that was just simply everybody uplifting everybody. Kobe could easily just say, I'm going to call him, didn't call.
Yeah, that's true.
He could have said that. But no, he wants you to do well, succeed, do him. I could have said, yeah, just hit me up, and they'll never answer the phone. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's stuff like that. And then it's not a competition thing. Like, you call me, we talk about the episode, you send me the links, we talk about, the all the content we do, and it has to be a level of wanting to see each other do well, not necessarily competing all the time. A lot of times people won't want to see you do well because they feel like it's a competition, and seeing you do well makes them feel like they're losing. So we got to get out of that mindset as well. It can be two winners. I think we got this misconception there's only one winner. But in the sayings, it's like, oh, number two is the first to lose, or
and that's a great point. But all the evidence proves different, because you can talk about Beyonce and Rihanna and Jay-Z and Puff Daddy. I'm not supposed to know all those young folks. I'm familiar with my, but I'm just saying. So you see multiple winners on so many levels. So how do you come back and minimize it to one?
It's perspective, because we just said that, right? But somebody else will still argue about
who
Rihanna
now they turn out
Beyonce.
They're going to turn
Jay-Z versus Diddy. Who's the better mogul?
Yeah.
This person versus this person. But really, they all win. They all winning.
They're all winners.
But it takes a certain amount of knowledge and perspective driven people to really see it that way. Some people are only going to see things one way, which is, go back to the original thing when you're saying like how we do this, is giving people different ways to look at things. Some people, when we say programmers don't be having one perspective. Oh, I'm from here. It's the ghetto. It's poverty. That's all it is to life. If that's your perspective, then you're never gonna want nothing good in life. That's what you know. But if you happen to go to school at the rich side of town, you say, dang, what I got to do to live like this?
Right.
The perspective change. You know, if you got to live life. Living life change your perspective a lot too. Living life, trying new things, meeting new people. You know, like all that stuff is a big part of someone broadening or widening their perspective rather, because you see them more now. You see more, do more, feeling more, know more, and you're around more. But when you ask me all these questions about, you know, how we do this, how we do that, that's how they gotta get out the house first.
Yeah.
You can't do it from sitting on your couch. You can do it from Facebook unless you allow social media to tell you everything that's wrong or right, which is a whole different conversation.
Have you come to understand, and you may or would have understand, I say come to understand, so that's no disrespect in me saying it that way.
No, go ahead.
Even though that may not be the best way to say it. To understand the power of the media, because I believe that while we having these vehicles at a very nominal cost, other than investing in ourselves to try to do what we are currently doing at this particular point, and others who are doing it as well, that we are obligated to do more than we're doing. Nobody else can obligate it. You have to obligate yourself. Nobody can determine what your goals and aspirations do. That's a personal decision.
Mm-hmm.
But as we have those broader conversations, what we'll say our communities look like, do we understand the vehicles or the instruments that we have in our hand? Do you understand it to the degree that this is a powerful medium here? Being assumption, that's a powerful medium. Ken Macon should understand that's a powerful medium. Janice Haller Jackson understands that's a powerful medium, that we are to be blowing life, attempting to blow life into our communities on a bigger level. That don't mean we have to do the same thing, because as I can see some of the things you've done, you do artists, you do people who do sports, you do education. I mean, you cross the gambit.
Yeah.
The politics, you cross the gambit. And from all of the ones that I've peeped at, I've learned something from all of them. So how do we make that all those are winning fields, and do we understand the vehicle that we have in our hand, and that we don't have to be, as they say, the fake media? We can create the media from hearing it directly from those sources.
Yeah. So to answer the question, I think it's all about how you view what you are in media. That's the first. So you're talking about accountability, right? So if you are somebody who holds yourself accountable in media, then this is the perfect field for you. So like you said, I try to not box myself in. I do a bunch of different types of people who do different types of things. Then you got people who do solely politics, people who do solely this, people who are solely, certain things. And I feel like you will learn in from each one. Now, I make a conscious effort to make sure that the audience learns from my episodes. I want them to learn. So we joke, we play, we laugh, but it's always a message. I want you to learn something from if you're going to be watching me, I might as well be teaching you. I'm in leadership and outside of life and real life, and I always feel like it's not just me telling you, do. So my media is not just me telling you, watch me, share my stuff. No, it's me knowing that I got your eyes, I got that audience. Now what I'm going to do with it? I think you have to reach a certain level or a certain point in what you're doing if you're taking this seriously, to where you do draw back and say, okay, cool, I can't just say this online now. We talk. There's a lot of people want to say. A lot of people want to say. I can't always just say that. Right. I can't just ask this guest, hey, what you thought about this? It might not feel well. Plus, if people watching you and people like to say this as I'm not wrong with the kids, not wrong with the kids, but if you know these people watching you, you make that decision whether you hold yourself accountable or not. So people say, I'm a role model, but you got all these people watching you, then you telling me like you don't care about it.
Right.
So I know all the eyes is on me, so I can't say childish things. I got people that look at me as older, younger, and mature. They look at what I'm saying, what I'm going through as not necessarily Bible, but as a way to navigate life. So for some people that watching my episodes or watching your episodes or that watching our stuff, it's helping them navigate through life. So I would be remiss if I said, I don't feel like I hold with the tongue being powerful. Like, the things I'm saying, I have to make a conscious effort to make sure that I'm not saying nothing that's going to get somebody hurt. I'm not saying nothing that's going to get somebody to do something crazy. I'm saying uplifting things. I'm not saying nothing that's going to make somebody look like a bad person per se. You hold the keys to all them doors with your words and the stuff you put out. Like when I edit this and we do all this stuff, like me hitting upload is a conscious effort. So I'm saying everything I'm saying this in this platform, in this space, I'm okay with anybody hearing. I'm okay with anybody following. So you make that conscious effort. That's why I do speak uplifting. I do speak great things about Augusta. I do hold people accountable on the podcast. I might ask them about something that's challenging. I'm not gonna put you in a rough spot. I'm not gonna come back and embarrass somebody because, like I said, I do hold a certain level of accountability to make sure that the guest feels comfortable. But I'll make sure my listeners and the audience also feel like, hey, he's been consistently teaching us. He's been consistently, holding people accountable. Even if a person don't feel in the moment, like, I have people come on and say, I don't know, you asked me them 3 questions. I say, hey, look, man, I had to ask those questions. I wasn't trying to be an a-hole, you know what I'm saying? But I also asked you 57 other questions that you look great on, you know what I'm saying? But it's for people to dissect. But it's knowing that and being cognizant of like, okay, well, I'm painting this picture. They gonna take from that what they will. Some people say, painting is ugly. Wow, look at the way that black is ugly. I don't like that black. But somebody else, that black is the most important part of that picture. So I had to make sure I put that black in there because you owe yourself. You got your due diligence in media. I feel like so. Like if you can't just come on and not speak about things of Augusta. They're gonna say, what he got going on? You sold out. You're not being who we know you to be. You know what I'm saying? Like even you coming in media, you're gonna be veered and you're going to have people who are expecting a certain amount of topics Augusta driven that you're gonna talk about. I'm pretty sure you get called all the time. You heard such and such? They wait for you to talk about it. Right. You can't just not speak about it. So it's certain things I have to speak about, certain things you don't have to speak about. But that's media for you. Like you have to hold yourself accountable in the fact that you are now in media and the things you say, like you said, the power of the tongue. So I'm not gonna go around saying, man, Augusta politics is horrible. I'm not gonna go around saying that. Even if I felt that way, I wouldn't go around saying it.
Right.
I would paint a picture to where the audience can make that decision for themselves. If it's horrible, I might have 5 people on. If they all horrible, then
they're all horrible.
That's what the media. That's what they're gonna look at. But I'm gonna give them the fair shot. I'm not gonna sit here and grill them and make them feel comfortable because then you become a platform people don't want to come on. People should always feel comfortable coming and sitting down and talking to me, but also feel like he's gonna ask some real questions at some point. So just know that's coming.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So do you? And a lot of time I see you like you take a moment and you just share what's on your heart. Mm-hmm. Through those experiences, and like you said, sometimes you've had persons to mention to you, man, those couple of questions, man, I didn't think you'd go answer those. You've already acknowledged that. But when you take the liberty sometime just to bring us into your thought process at that moment, have you said something in a certain way that you might have felt you were going to get some pushback back, and nobody said nothing? And so you was pleasantly surprised, meaning that you're kind of growing together as a community.
Yeah, definitely. I've had times where I've said things and people didn't take it the way I thought they would take it. Like you feel good, like, oh, I ain't gotta, cause you ready. I'm prepared. I'm like, if they call, right. I'm already know, like, this is why I said this, what I meant.
Exactly.
Cause you have to immediately defend a lot of stuff he's saying, or not defend, but explain, like, dive deeper. Which is why I take my time when I'm talking, so that I feel like if I say something that you don't understand, you ain't listen to the whole thing. I might say something at 7 minutes. I might bring it back at 14 because I know at 7 I said it kind of, it wasn't a fully developed thought. Then at 14 minutes, I might bring it back again. So I'm like, by the time you finish the whole thing, if you got a problem with something I said, then that's fine. But don't also, that's the thing about media and in that world today. We big on shorts. So like the clips. Boom, that's like reading page 7 through 13 of a book, saying it was boring. But at 13, the book get good. So from 13 to 200, the book is good, So like, I feel like when I say things, I always try to bring it back if I feel like I might need to clear that up. So if somebody do call me, it's normally something I just didn't think that they would take. And that happened to you, but that happens to me more so than the other way. Like, I might say something.
Nobody ever really says anything to me.
Well, my friends, they'd be like, you wild by saying that, like joking, but and they say, I guess, I don't know, they say I be stirring the pot. I just like to, I like to bring awareness to things. So to perspective, right? One person's perspective is me, I'm stirring the pot. Another person's perspective is me, he's creating awareness of this situation. So
perspective, all back perspective. Yeah. What about your daughters? You have 2 daughters, if I'm correct.
Yeah, 2 daughters.
So in terms of them, as they listen to you from start to naming your podcast or suggesting a name, how do they feel about it now as they watch it, and are they growing right along with it and appreciate what Dad is doing?
They love it. That's funny you said that because at the time, when I first started my podcast, only my oldest was around. My youngest was on the way. So I started around that time. I was going through a lot of times. I started around that. She was on the way. And yeah, my youngest, she loved it. She want to come to every studio session I have. Let me come. My oldest, she'll come when she really feel like she just want to bond. And she'll do the audio for me sometimes or things of that nature just to be around me. But yeah, they love it. They love it. But they like, I think, seeing me out sometimes when we go out and people just stopping and talking to me because they be like, Daddy must be somebody, I guess. You know what I'm saying? They like that. Like, Dad, you know everybody. You know everybody. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, they like it though. They love it. I love having them on. I love doing. My favorite things to do is with them sometimes, like just doing the videos with them.
What are their ages, if you don't mind?
12 and 6.
12 and 6, okay.
Yeah.
So talk to us about some of the persons that you've interviewed, you know, some of them in the poetry, an artistic way. What have you learned from them, if anything, about art? I mean, for instance, I'm giving an example. The one I saw, Brother Travs, the one Numb.
Yeah.
I mean, that's beautiful. I look forward to interviewing him and allowing him to elaborate.
He's a great interview.
And so, what have you learned, or what did you learn when you begin to hear those? Because I'm going to take you down to each one of those fields that I can identify that you've interviewed people or persons around.
Yeah,
and what did you draw from that profession that you might have not been aware of?
Just his dedication. Like I was not, because I'm not from here, so I don't know, right? But when you talk to Brother Trav and you hear his story and his upbringing and his dedication to poetry and what he means to the poet, not you just in Augusta, just in general, like he's in the poetry world for real. It just also brings me to that same thing. Like, wow, I think Augusta is it should be a prideful town. He's just one of many, you know?
Right.
But Brother Trav was a great interview. Like just talking to him and watching him perform. I seen him do some I seen him do a lot of pieces now thinking about it because he's been in some contests as well. Watching him turn on his political, then turn on his smooth daddy type of thing, then turn on his like we need to get along and do better. Then also turn on the sports and just a cool like I don't know. You learn a lot. You learn a lot through people, but the main thing I take from like Brother Trav is his dedication to his craft. Like he's very, very dedicated and very, very emotional with his craft. So he takes it that serious to where like he feels a way if you don't feel what he's feeling sometimes. Like because I think he knows he does a great job of using his words to paint a picture and using his emotions to paint a picture. It's almost like you didn't feel that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I like that about him. Like, some people be scared, especially men, we be scared to be emotional with certain things. He gonna tell you, like, yeah, I feel like I did a great job here. I don't know what was going on. You know what I'm saying? So I like Brother Trav on that. Like, he just real a lot of times. So
what about, let's talk about, in terms of sports. How many person have anybody you've interviewed that's in the sports arena that's dedicated, whether they're a coach or whether they actually play the sports? I know you mentioned you have a younger brother. I think there's a younger brother, right?
Yeah. I'm the oldest.
Very successful in playing local basketball. I don't know how far you went. I've heard you mention that. So have you had the pleasure of having them on?
He was my first guest.
Okay.
My brother was my first guest, yeah.
Okay.
We did it 3 times. We did 3 episodes. I didn't like neither one of them. Because my brother, I had to put him in a certain light, you know? Right. But I also didn't have that person like me to say, hey, it's fine.
So you understand me sitting on one ain't done nothing with it, right?
I understand. I've been there. Trust me, I get it. That's why I like, this is like nostalgia for me. I'm like, yo. But it's also meaning like you care, dedication, once again.
Yeah.
But my brother, sports-wise, that'd be my favorite person to interview. Haven't interviewed him in a while. Just life, and he not always, when you have a brother and y'all family and y'all like close as we are, sometimes you gotta separate the sports from he need a brother, not a fan, So I kind of stopped for a little while interviewing him just to let life happen, and because I know when you feel like you should go to the league or whatever, and then life happen and you got things going on. I've been there before. Not at his level, but I've been there before where life seems like it's crumbling down. You need a brother. You don't need a fan. You don't need to be interviewed about your life. You need to let me take your hand and me walk you through and help you.
Let me ask you about that if you don't mind. This is because this is about the second, if not the third time you've mentioned about life happened. Because you mentioned the time when you took on the podcast. You had some things going on. What would be your advice to persons? Because right now we see you've almost become the face of the city in the Black community for me in a really good way for what you bring to the table. what do you suggest? What advice would you give persons when you go through those crises? How should you, how should you attempt to navigate that?
The first step is realizing that like where you at ain't where you're gonna always be at. You're not always gonna stay there, right?
Did you know that going in, or did you learn that coming through it?
Coming through it, cause everybody know you be down sometimes. You have some down days, like you just. And honestly, like one of the things I can say is like having my daughter, so that's how you know like I ain't always gonna be here, because at some point I know I'm gonna have to make her be proud of me, and maybe she's young right now, so I have to make sure I get to a certain level first for when she able to come to and see things. She say, "Oh, that's my daddy." You know what I'm saying? Like so. I would say if you have something that you cherish or someone that you cherish, someone that you look up to you, those are reasons to keep going. Reasons to keep going. My brother, my mother, depending on what you are to the family, if you're the oldest, if you're the backbone, like whatever you're going through in life, just keep fighting through it. Keep fighting through it. You're going to meet somebody, something's going to happen for you somehow, some way. As long as you pushing, as long as you trying, like as long as you dedicated, you trying, you pushing, you be all right. Like it ain't always going to be bad. It don't always rain. It's going to be sunshine at some point. So, and I had my moments of that, like, you down, especially if you feel like in life you should have been further along, which is why I stopped doing that too. So when you feel that way, or if you feel that way, stop comparing. Don't compare your life to the next person. That starts that jealousy, that program we talked about. You can't clap for somebody because you feel like your hands is tied because life is messed up for you. No, it ain't tied. You can clap for somebody else. But sometimes you realize doing that because that clap you get somebody might be the thing to bring you up. And I've always done that. It didn't happen for everybody, even if my stuff not going well. And then, trying to navigate just through knowing that at some point it's gonna be rainbow somewhere.
Let me say this here. You just said something. Excuse me. This is something that was interesting. I was listening to something just the other day, and it was talking about the human beings as being a giver. And it said, don't wait till you obtain what you necessarily want in life to start giving. You have to start giving right where you are. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, to your point, that's probably something just a handshake. I mean, a clap is all you can do. But be a giver. Do it with sincerity. Do it with some real intentions. And as a result of that, your life can be impacted by that as well. And one more question in that vein, in that spirit is, can you remember at what point in time you begin to see some sense of, you realize you're in a tunnel, a dark tunnel. And I'm not saying when you came on the other side, but you begin to see a light down there. Do you remember that moment?
Yeah. For me, it was, I don't want to say it where I work, but everybody probably know. But when I got hired where I worked at, and I think it was like my first check, even though it wasn't like crazy, but it was more than it was what I was getting for doing a lot more extra stuff, and I was like, I can get every 2 weeks. I remember like, cause that time I was with my kid's mom at the time and stuff. And I remember like, yo, let's go to Walmart. Like that made me feel good. Like to say, I'm paying for it. You know what I'm saying? I've been paying for the stuff, but it's one of them things where we going in, I know like I got a budget. I can actually get this. My daughter pick a toy up. It's okay. I ain't gotta say, walk around with it and put it back later on. Like she forget, Hope
she forget she asked for it. Eating out of her hand. Huh?
Then that's what it is. Like, okay, cool. My mom said, well, I need 75. Oh, I'll give you 75. Right. Like when I was able to start like that, just able to start doing things that made me feel like a man. Right. Like a man again, like, oh, okay, I'm good now. So that was when I started. And then you keep pushing. So you look where I'm at in my company now, it's like you don't settle. You want more. And that's what I think that's what it was. I seen that. And it wasn't like it was just great from there, because you still got storms you go through after that. You start realizing, okay, well, that's just one foot forward.
Well, you can always, what I've learned in life is anytime you continue to advance, even if you get out of the one that you're in, now if you want to stay where you are, you're good.
Yeah.
But if you still have aspirations, you're going to have to walk into another storm.
Yeah.
To get to that next level.
Right. Or sometimes, even if, like, let's say you don't have aspirations, but you walk through a storm, you realize that storm is preparing you for the next thing.
That's what it is.
So you might have just been walking, right?
Yeah.
You might have just been walking, and now that storm, like, and so now you have to make certain decisions. You have to make certain moves, and I've been blessed, lucky, whatever people go by. I don't know. I've been in enough situations where like it has helped me a lot. So
you've also I've seen a saying, and I'm gonna come back to that. What I wanted was I'm gonna do the politics, then I'm gonna come back. You've interviewed the politicians, a few politicians as well, including myself. What have you learned that you probably was not familiar with? And what do you like and dislike? That does not being critical of Augusta.
With politics?
Just personal. Just personal. I mean, it don't make it a bad thing. Now I give you a pass on there if you want to leave it alone.
I'm good.
I give you a pass on it if you want to leave it alone.
So it's simple, man. Like, and it's a good, both good and bad, right? But I learned that, and it worked for me. I like that. I know people like that, and I've come across it because I use it as well in my life when needed. But man, politicians sometimes they will speak but not answer a question. I don't know how y'all do it. Y'all will speak for 3-4 minutes and it sounds great. Y'all's using big vocabulary words. I'm like, okay, this is. And then you let them talk, and they'll talk enough to get you the next question, and like, okay, but you didn't answer the last question before that.
Yeah.
You spoke,
yeah,
but you ain't answer. But sometimes that's an answer.
Yeah.
And I realized that sometimes
no answer is an answer.
No answer is an answer. And that tells me you're not saying move on, but you're telling me, like, look, now, I ain't gonna answer that question. So I like that. But and with the positive, I also realized that you have to be cognizant of everything you're saying, because with positive, I'm learning, and I've learned from interviewing so many people that something you say in 2011 could hinder you in 2021. Mm-hmm. So I realized that sometimes speaking and not answering the question is sometimes the best bet, because your raw, uncut answer to that question, it may change in 5 years too. You can change in 5 years. Your mind, your perspective will change, right? So sometimes you get that broad answer, so you can kind of teeter on how you're gonna feel about that topic at some point. And I don't want to never like make it feel like, y'all politicians never answer questions. They answer questions sometimes, but every now and then you get political with your answer, and it's for that reason, because it's a political game. You might run for something in 5 years. They might bring this question back up. You answered well. Other person said some wild stuff. They said something very direct, and you can change. You said the last time, matter of fact, remember you was like how you might gain more information.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not answering your question, but I also I might not want to say I don't know. Mm-hmm. You don't want to hear a person tell you they don't know, because we feel like y'all should know everything. You trying to run for this. You need to know everything. When was this person born? What street is this? You need to know everything. So saying I don't know can hinder you as well. So sometimes instead of saying I don't know, them 3 words, you give us 50 words, mm-hmm. Some good vocabulary, and you go from there. Mm. And I like it. I mean, I'm cool with it. I get it. I call that politics,
Well, do you subscribe to the notion that some people say all life is politics? Now, we do realize these are elected officials, and so in their view, as politicians, they're elected officials, mm-hmm. and what have you. But what about life itself in the workplace where you work? You got staff that's responsible to you. You got higher-ups that you're responsible for.
Yeah.
You in a relationship. You got friends sometimes. So do you see there's some validity that there's some politics going on in those relationships as well? Not to the degree of elected officials. Now, trust me, I'm not trying to compare.
But it is. It is compared to, like, I've learned
even
that.
People say in the church as well. They say, how does it work? You got politics everywhere.
I've learned that has taught me, like, so I joke and I play about politics, but that interviewing them and being in them conversations has taught me, like, that is life. That's life.
That's life.
So, and I know you were saying not to compare, but no, it kind of is, because they answer to somebody. They answer to certain things. They have a job to do. They have a description of something to do. They have people that feel like they're supposed to do X, Y, Z. It's the same thing in real life. Mm-hmm. If you're in a relationship, your girlfriend might think you're supposed to do X, Y, Z. So if they ask you, oh, does these look pretty? And they don't. Yeah, like you're not going to just say no, because then they're going to bring it every time you said no, you didn't look pretty this time, So it's politics. You get political answers all the time. And even in the workforce, we got to cut hours. Why we got to cut hours? I can sit here and tell you you're just a horrible worker. I can tell you that, so I'm cutting yours first. Or I can say, look, it rained yesterday, you're making no money, so in order to offset that, we going to cut hours so that we got to come on Friday and we can, y'all can get paid, whatever. That sounds a lot better than, you ain't doing no work today, so I'm going to send you home. It's all politics, but you learn that. Like, and I'm not lying either one. It's not I'm lying. I'm just not being as blunt with you with certain things, because that answer I give you, that political answer I give you, could also be what make or break you as a person sometimes. If I just say you try, a girl told me this one time when I worked at Bala, I was like, I keep bringing this up, she can get mad. I'm like 17. She was like, oh, you a horrible bagger. You just a horrible bagger. I was like, damn, like, am I that bad? Like, what am I doing wrong? But I know that I never wanted to like feel that again. So I always like tried to go above and beyond and be a better worker. I don't think I was that bad that day. But that was one of them things where if she didn't tell me that, would I have her like really stepped up and did more stuff? Or would I have just been like, thought I was good? So it depends. Then you might tell somebody like, you know, how I'm doing, man. You know, you doing good. Keep up the good work. You know, I would just suggest you do X, Y, Z. Political answer. I could sit here and tell you, you do too late, you move too slow, no sense of urgency. I could tear you down, but that might tear you down. So in the long haul, me giving you some kind of political answer or maybe not like being as blunt can help you also because they might be like, man, Jermaine always supported me. I might feel like you was always horrible.
But why doesn't a person feel to that point, even if you not necessarily blunt, but you're straightforward, give them, you know, about 5 reasons rather than just saying, no, I'm cutting these hours because, you know, you don't want to do the work, you know what I'm saying? That what makes us feel that you're not supporting us, even though you're honest? You may not be the hardcore blunt answer,
Yeah.
but it's an answer, has some validity to it, and all I'm going to end up saying is that, man, you'll never support me, but you're telling me the truth.
Yeah, but like you said, it's politics, right? So y'all could be telling I'm pretty you for sure. I'm pretty sure plenty of times you told the truth, and it ain't like the truth you told, you know. But it don't mean you couldn't have told the truth in a different way though.
Right.
It don't mean you because like I said, what I'm saying is still the truth. It really did rain. I ain't lying. It did rain. Our sales is down. I just ain't telling you why I chose to cut your hours, but I'm telling you I be cutting hours, you know. But back to what you were saying, what you just said though, like we also have to realize that people are human as well. So being in leadership or being in form of media, I have to decide with my demographic what things I can say and can't say. I know who I can talk about in any kind of way, shape, or form, and it's fine.
Right.
I know who I can't, you know?
Right.
And I think knowing that you got to be a people person sometimes. So you have to grow and learn yourself to be a people person where you're learning different personalities, you're learning different aspects of how people want to take certain things, receive certain things, which is politics, learning politics. You know you're not going to go down to the projects and talk about things that make them feel like less than.
Right.
You know, so you're going to speak to that's a different demographic, different audience. The political side, you're going to make sure they with you. They feel like, okay, I can relate to what he's saying, right? That's politics, making somebody relate to what you're saying. So when you're talking to people and life in general, I learned that as well. So I learned that somebody is kind of timid, soft, I can't be as rough. Learn through politics. I can't go to the project and just say, man, y'all poor, y'all horrible. Nah, y'all need to stop buying Jordans and do. I can't go down and say that. No, I ain't gonna say that. I'm gonna say it certain ways where they can feel like, okay, I can relate to what he's saying, and I feel like he for me. And that's what it's about. It's about getting people to take accountability, but also not necessarily being so blunt. But then you got them who you gotta be blunt with. Like they receive being blunt as everything, but you gotta know people. You might can take the bluntness. Sarah down the street might need to be soft spoken to, and you gotta know that. Yeah. And that's politics.
Talk to me about. I noticed you a comment I've seen you make it several times, and you're saying that about people putting in the work. You know, putting in the work. What do you mean by that? And what encourages you to say that probably as often as you do?
Well, I work.
Okay.
You asked me when I came, you was like, do you get any rest? It's the second time I've been asked that question in 2 weeks. I'm going, I'm driving back and forth here. I work 10 hours a day. I got my girls most of the time. You see me with my girls. So like people be wondering like, well, when you find time to like lay down, you know what I'm saying? So it's about putting the work in, and it's not just. So I had a thing with someone one time, and he was telling me, man, I'm putting the work in. I'm doing this, and the stuff he was saying wasn't telling me he putting the work in. You just there. You can go to work every day and not work. You can just show up. You know what I'm saying? You can set this up and not do nothing at all. You're just setting up. That's not putting the work in. Putting the work in is doing something, seeing the results, sitting back, changing some stuff up you're doing so you can get better results that time, analyzing, being a people person, doing the political side of things. That's putting the work in. Like it's doing things with a purpose, not just doing things. So people confuse that a lot of times that because they did something, they put the work in. No, what purpose did you have doing it? You just showed up to work today. That's not putting the work in. You just came here, you clocked in. I ain't see you till lunchtime. It's not putting the work in.
That still happens
every day. More than you know. You put a podcast out, cool, but you didn't grow from the last part. Your last 10 episodes looked the same. Nothing grew, nothing changed. You didn't touch the people. It didn't affect nobody. It didn't affect nothing. Like that's putting the work in, is doing something with a purpose and creating some form of change or having some type of push, whether it's people you touching, whether it's a message you giving out, whether it's you affecting your inner circle in some way, shape, or form. That's putting the work into me.
So let me ask you this: as you, for all the interviews that you do and all the commentary that you make, what do you want our takeaway to be about who you are?
I'm somebody I'm a hard worker. I'm going to work. I'm going to uplift. I'm a giver. I'm definitely going to give. Like people definitely know that. I joke and play like I'm mean, but I'm definitely a nice person. Like people will tell you that. I'll give you a shirt on my back if you need it. But I'm a jack of all trades, things positive, if that makes sense. So all things positive, I'm a jack of all trades, and if it's uplifting, whether it's being a people person, whether it's being leadership, whether it's being a leader, whether it's learning, whether it's teaching, I'm gonna do all of that. Learning too, because like sometimes I might know a lot, but sometimes me letting you know that you taught me something may help you more than me teaching you something. You may feel like, damn, I feel like you can't be a teacher unless you can learn some things. You can't know everything. You know what I'm saying? I think what the saying is, a man who knows nothing at all, something like that. So I look at life that way as well. Like I want to be able to be taught, but I teach as well. I want to be able to be led, but I lead as well. So all things positive is me. Like that's what I try to push, positivity.
Urban Pro Weekly, an article when they interviewed you a few weeks ago as well, which I thought was a great interview. And I think you was very proud of it. You held it up every chance you get.
Yeah, I see you got it in here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's his copy, mind you, I say, but yeah,
Absolutely.
shout out to Urban Pro Weekly. But this was, I love this. It was amazing to me.
So in the interview, my takeaway, and I'm paraphrasing this, and one of the questions that you answered, you took on leadership in many ways and said, hey, I don't mind being a leader in this community. I don't mean sense of giving this community a sense of purpose. I'm putting all those attributes with it. I don't mind the criticism that comes with it. Yeah. I'm prepared for it. Yeah. I want to lead. I want you to think about podcasts. I want to be the first to come to mind. I don't want to be the only, but I do would like to be the first. What gives you that type of courage to say that?
I was just raised to be confident. Like I think being
Did
younger.
I characterize it right?
No, that's perfect. It's perfect. Now, necessarily being the first, like I said, I just feel like the stats are with y'all. I can't help that I started before the thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's my thing. I'm not the first. That's cool, but I don't have to be the best, at what I'm doing. But I do everything with a purpose, and that I think that comes off as being one of the better brands of it, if that makes sense. But I'm always gonna do that. I'm always gonna try to think of ways to be better. I might think my podcast is perfect the way it is. I'm always thinking about how can I do better? What can I do better? Like how can I be better at whatever I'm doing? How can I grow? So I'm always gonna think that way. And for being a leader in the community, like I said, I'm from a place where people love to tell you they from there. It's just a prideful thing. And I want the same thing here. Like when I'm in Columbia working, I always tell people like, yeah, I got this podcast. And I don't talk podcast in Augusta, but outside the city, I'm always gonna talk about it. It's all about Augusta. If you want to know about Augusta, you go to my podcast. I always tell people, go on my podcast. You go down the list. You know about Augusta in about 2-3 hours. You'll be all right. So that's my thing. And then for leading the community, I feel like naturally I just lead. Naturally. Like naturally, you got some people who are just going to naturally take leadership into their own hands. You ain't got to give it to me. You tell me it's a task, is what you want done, and naturally I'll probably be leading that task just by nature. That's just how I am. I don't know if I could ever change that per se. And I always like that, It just, when you start to realize your worth and what you can and can't do, and start to really see what your confidence level is like versus other people's as well, you naturally start to lead. And people look at your leader. Like, I might walk into a room, and I seen a quote the other day, and it was something I wish I got. It said, when people walk into a room, it was something to the sense of like, you can either have people who are gonna realize they're not a leader, they're gonna lead the room. Mm-hmm. They realize that they are intimidated about you, so they're gonna start issues with you, or they're going to want to be like you and be like, I'll follow until I can lead. Mm-hmm. It was something like that. And I feel like that's what I do when I walk into a room. I'm never intimidated. You know, I'm not gonna be intimidated. You might know a lot. That means that I need to be around you so I can know some things. You might not know enough. That means that I need to be around you so you can know some things. That's just my nature. I don't care to have the issues back and forth. I don't want to do that. I just want to help, grow, lead, and I don't mind not leading. But naturally, I'm gonna at some point probably branch off because I'm gonna lead. You know, it's just how I am.
Mm. So when you step out like that, being in the city of Augusta, in particular, where it almost kind of like we don't, in many ways, we act as though we don't like strong leadership. It becomes problematic. You seem to be navigating that very, very well, which is a testament to your leadership. At what point in life did you? And you just said you was born that way, so obviously you were born that way. So the question becomes, at what point did you realize it?
I think late, really late, because even though I grew up like my dad, he was there. I knew him and stuff, but I think I always wanted him to just be that person. You know, you do it right. Even though he always tried to give it to me, like, no, it's your house. You know, da da da. But you're young, you don't know no better. And I think once I finished high school, I think I really started to do it more. I realized some mistakes I made, whether as a big brother, whatever, things I neglected, and I didn't want to do that. So once again, my brother, I started kind of with him, then my sister started with them, just trying to be a better brother, more of a father figure even to them, to a sense. And then having my daughter, that definitely changed the game because naturally, like when anything coming to her, I want to be in charge of all things, you know. And I think the time I spent with her daily, just in and out, staying around her, you grow that in other rooms as well. It start to carry over to your work, start to carry over to this. So when I'm younger, I'm thinking like, my mom is tripping, like, why is she arguing enough for this person? All they did was step on my feet, da da da. But I just started getting that, because you're like, yo, you don't see my daughter here? Why would you bump her? You know, it's like you naturally want people to feel protected, because in good leadership, you're gonna feel protected as well. Not only just smarts and that you're gonna be led the right way, you're gonna learn along the way. You're gonna feel protected along the way. And I want to bring that anything I was doing. So I started being more of a people person, talking to people more. Like I said, I had New York sense of me, so I didn't talk to people. I felt like if I didn't know you, we wouldn't need of us talking ever. Like, don't say good morning, don't say hi, nothing. Like, we don't have to speak.
Y'all cold blooded, man. When I went there,
that's how it is.
When I was 18, and I'm walking around and walking into the coffee shops and things, talking about good morning, good. Somebody literally told me, "You're not from here, are you?" I can remember the first time driving to New York, probably when I was going to shop for my stores at that point, and we was going through the Harlem Tunnel.
Yeah.
And we taking our time and navigating. A lady, a sister rode past me. You in New York? So they very clearly. But I think, in fairness to New Yorkers, or a person in the place, New Yorkers in particular, because all of us in the South had some relative that was from New York.
Yeah.
But we felt well about that, because when that cousin would come down over the summer, oh man, yeah, who that is, man? That's my cousin from New York. That's my cousin from New York.
You're bragging.
So we felt well about it as well. That connectivity.
Yeah.
There, we felt well about ourselves as well.
Everybody needs a cousin from New York.
Yeah, everybody needs a cousin from New York. I don't disagree with that. But in getting ready to close here, talk to me about when you decide to do some commentary yourself. What drives that? What make you say, I need to address this? Or I need to say, you may not even be addressing something. You may just be saying what's on your heart. Mm-hmm. But what drives that? To be able to pull over, I would say, and make that happen.
So I'm assuming you're talking about the thinking out loud I do?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's what you call thinking out loud. Exactly.
It's just, I feel like a lot of times, especially as men, we bottle stuff in. And that's my conduit to, like, expression. You know, like, I don't have to have a guest on. It's just me.
Right.
You know, so that's why I call it something different. So it's not the same. It's just me. And it's just my thoughts on certain things. It might be social media I'm seeing. It could be a problem I'm seeing with just one or two people. But I know that problem exists in like 10, 12, 15 other people. It could be an occurrence I had during that day before that. It might be something I just sat down and saw. But it's therapeutic to do it. I took a class back in 2012, 2013, something like that. And she was like, it's okay to talk to yourself if you want to. When you drive and just talk. We just call it free thought. That's what it's called, free thought. And I would do it here and there, And what I realized is that I'm talking a lot of my problems out. So sometimes you won't never know. It might be a problem I'm having. And I might just be speaking like I'm speaking to somebody, but it's really speaking to myself. You know, I don't have a diary. You know, I don't write the diaries. You know what I'm saying? But that's like a diary to me. It's because so much of that thinking out loud is me and my thoughts. Is true to what I believe. That it serves as another perspective of me. You got the joking side. I joke sometimes. I might just do one whole joking the whole time. I might be serious the whole time. It depends. But you get different glimpses and different sides of me. But it helps with the podcast too, because now you get to see the man behind. So like right now they see me, but you're behind the microphone. Luckily they already know you. You know what I'm saying? But if they didn't, then this would be a good way for them to know you. So you connect here, then you can watch the episode. You connect here, then you can watch the episodes. And it's just more therapeutic than anything.
You took the word out of my mouth. I just want to say therapeutic.
I love it. Because most of them, I always tell the time. Sometimes it be 12:56 in the morning, and I wake up at 6 to take my daughter to school. Mm-hmm. And I edit everything that night. Once I do my thing aloud, every time, it's not one I haven't done. Anybody tell you, once I do my thing aloud, I edit it that night and upload that right then and after. So if I do it at 12:30 and I'm done at 1 something, I break my equipment down, I edit it, might take a shower or bath and how I'm feeling, go to sleep. Then, but I always edit my stuff right after thinking out loud. So that's important to me, because when y'all see it, y'all seen it as soon as I want y'all to see it, like right then and there. I just set up 6 in the morning and I go on business. So, but yeah, it's therapeutic. It's probably the most therapeutic thing I do is that.
In closing, I want you to know first and foremost, I've thoroughly enjoyed doing this interview with you. I really believe that you're an asset to this community.
Appreciate that.
You bring joy to my heart in terms of looking through your body of work, somebody who's committed to it. I've learned a lot about you today, about commitment and hard work and willing to do the work. And I think that, and also just knowing that you're speaking to the community and challenging all of us just to step up to the plate. So in closing, the parting shots that they would say whatever you would like to say, share with anything that we've not addressed, and just let us have at it, as they say.
Oh yeah, man. First and foremost, thank you for having me on. Definitely support the platform. What I'll say is, if in life, we go through a lot of things. Just continue to keep your head up, push forward. Don't let anybody tell you can't do nothing. It's all in your hands at the end of the day. If you're from the city, if you're not from the city, you live here, uplift the city. The city could use great people. It can use a lot of positivity. Somebody doing something that can look as positive, uplift them, please. Clap for other people. If I can't stress that enough, clap for other people. Sometimes your applause for somebody else can be your blessing. It could be the opportunity you need. It takes so much energy to not support somebody on purpose than to just support somebody. Whether it's that share, whether it's giving that like, whether it's telling them they're doing a good job, like that go a long way to people. And I would just suggest everybody do that. So if nothing else from this podcast, do more. Be good to people, share their stuff, uplift them, and be unapologetically supportive.
Well,
I can't talk sometimes.
So. we all struggle with that one. Trust me. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be here. To the listening audience, you have listened to Speak Augusta podcast host Ben Hassan.
Yes.
But at the same time, the person who's done all of this talking and informing us about life itself has been Mr. Bobby, the artist Boucher.
Here we go.
From More Than the Masters. Have a blessed day.
Shout out to you for the Pepsi, too. He seen I like Pepsi. I like that. That was good. Good hospitality.
Y'all have a great day.